in this lesson, we'll begin to create the character's lower arm. So we're going to start this in much the same way. We'll build the pivot first. So let's just bring up a polygon primitive sphere. We'll go ahead and bring it over into position, and let's increase the radius on that. So going over to the creation node again, bring that radius up, middle mouse dragging, take our divisions down to 12. And this time, I don't necessarily want to rotate the pole to face along the arm. Let's rotate it so it's sort of perpendicular. Now we are doing it in sort of a ball joint, so we can have a little bit more freedom in how it's going to rotate. But I also want to be able to add a little bit of detail in here. And so I'll kind of add that joint in so it fills up that gap. And let's add the same sort of detail on this one that we added on the other one. So go into faces, extrude, and let's push those in just a little bit. Let's use our insert edge loop tool to just add some edges right over here. Okay, so we get something like that. Now let's build the lower arm, and we'll do that using, again, a simple cylinder. Bring it over into position. Let's increase the radius and the height. And let's rotate it into position. All right, let's change our subdivisions from 20 down to 12, so we'll keep everything kind of consistent there. And let's give ourselves some subdivisions along the height. We'll increase that height just a little bit. We can also scale along the length. Come in here and rotate this from the side as well. Now this is sort of tapered at the end, or both ends rather, and so we need to kind of add that taper in. Now I want to make sure to do this uniformly, because after we shape it, I'm going to move it back to the origin to do a little bit more work on the ends. And so let's take the points just on the end, and so everything we're going to do is going to be just scaling. So we'll select this edge loop, scale it up, select this one, scale it up, and not only scaling, but scaling uniformly. And let's scale this up. So we'll kind of get the taper from that. We'll kind of move this back, again using the object axis, so it'll go straight back like that. All right. Now once we get the shape of it, let's go back into our transforms. And now I want to move this back down to the origin. So we know we've got the shape and the size pretty much correct. Now we can start to create some of the other details, which will be a little bit easier to do as it's down on the origin. So let's zero out our translation, and let's zero out our rotation, but we won't touch the scaling. Okay, so let's now freeze the transformation so it'll bake that scaling in. So now we've just moved it back down here. All right, so now we need to do a little bit of work here. Let's create the opening for the elbow. So we'll come in here, do an extrude with a face selection. Let's do a scale. So click on one of the little scale cubes there. Hit G to repeat and do another extrude, and we'll push that in. And then we can delete those. Okay, let's come down here and do the same thing. So I'll select those polygons. And let's do another extrude. We'll extrude in for the thickness, the overall thickness of it. G to repeat that, and we'll push it in. And let's go ahead and continue to do a few extrudes here. So G again, we'll kind of pull this in a little bit. So we want to have sort of a gun in here. So G one more time, and I'll push this in and then delete it. So make ourselves a little bit more of an opening in there. I also want to create kind of a wrist piece. And so let's select all of these polygons and let's duplicate those. Okay. Now let's take those polygons and extrude them out. So now we'll pull them out to make the thickness. And then want to add a little bit more of an interesting shape here. So let's select that outer rim. And I'm going to select kind of every other face here. So shift select 2, and then not every other face, but every 2 faces rather, that are kind of facing down. Oops. Skip 2 here. There we go. So 2 selected, then skip 2, 2 selected, and so forth. All right, so let's extrude those. I'm going to change the axis and just pull those straight down like that. All right, now we can go through and start to add our edge loops to tighten this up for when we are going to smooth it. So come in here and kind of tighten that up. Can do the same thing kind of up here. Tighten that up a little bit. Let's do the same thing on this wrist piece. So come back along here and add some edge loops. Kind of do the same thing up here. And then down on the bottom here if we want to tighten up the ends where it comes down. And then we can smooth it to check it. So that's what that looks like. And we've got something like that. All right. So once we've got something that looks close to that, the next thing that we'll do is come in and build sort of the extending gun from the inside here. So let's do that next.